I'm Caio. Pardon my English. I'm gonna try my best here. I live in Brazil and I'm a lawyer. I'm here to check some facts with you guys about the presidential impeachment process.
Por isso eu digo ao Brasil, sim para o futuro!
Viva! 342 votos favoráveis.
It is the understanding of most Brazilian people that our government is selling the world their biased version of the story.
Now, Brazil's democratically elected president Dilma Rousseff says that she's the victim of a political coup after Congress Sunday night voted overwhelmingly to send impeachment proceedings against her to the Senate.
So this is a genuine report coming from a pretty ordinary middle-class guy, backed up by the majority of Brazil's public opinion. Ready?
Because above all, they are trying to instate a coup d'etat against our democracy. I can assure you that I will not cooperate with this. I will not resign for any reason whatsoever.
Fact number 1. This is not a coup. Well, that's the most important fact. The whole impeachment process is constitutional and it's being guided thoroughly by the Brazilian Supreme Court.
Não acredito que ela tenha falado que impeachment é golpe, porque o impeachment é um instituto previsto constitucionalmente.
Não se trata de um golpe. Todas as democracias têm mecanismos de controles. E o processo de impeachment é um tipo de controle.
It is up to both houses of parliament by a 2/3 majority to impeach the president. About 600 elected congressmen and women are involved, and each house has its own committee to debate, analyze and produce reports.
O juiz, no caso concreto, é a Câmara dos Deputados inicialmente e posteriormente o Senado da República.
All that by the rule of law. So where's the coup? I don't see any military around. Fact number 2. The Supreme Court members were appointed by the current government. It turns out that 8 out of 11 justices of the Supreme Court were nominated by the current government, which has been in power in Brazil for 13 years now. They're the ones overseeing the entire process and have claimed more than once that this is a democratic procedure, not a coup.
O que ocorre hoje é a democracia.
Fact number 3. The impeachment process is based on a billionaire fiscal fraud. Some have reported that the formal accusation does not involve the president herself and that it is a minor fiscal issue. As a matter of fact, it was the president who personally issued a series of illegal and disguised loans between the National Treasury and the state banks. It was intended to mislead the public opinion, the political class, and the international community about the actual fiscal debt that the country was drowning into. You ask me about the value? Up to 1% of the whole Brazilian GDP. Obviously, the law forbids this accounting maneuver. Fact number 4. Most people want the impeachment of the president. About 2/3 of Brazilian people are for the impeachment process, which is way more support than the 54 million votes that Dilma got in the 2014 election. Back then, the opposition candidate got 51 million votes as well. Due to the corruption scandals and the economic crisis, more than 6 million people went out to the streets to protest peacefully for the impeachment of the president. Hey, check this out.
Ali tem uma outra faixa, impeachment já. E o boneco do presidente Lula, do ex-presidente Lula e da presidente Dilma.
This was only in the city of São Paulo. On the other hand, pro-government protests failed to gather a tenth of that crowd. Fact number 5. There's an economic recession in Brazil, and this crisis is due to the government's economic policies, its inefficiency, and corruption. Let's go to the facts. Brazil's GDP decreased 4% last year. Inflation hit 10%. The interest rate is now at 14%, and the unemployment rate grew 40%. More than 10 million people are out of a job. The president blames it on an imaginary international crisis. But the truth is Brazil is just doing better than Venezuela in Latin America. And apart from Russia, it's the only economic power with negative GDP. Fact number 6. The government is corrupt. Brazil's Labour Party, called PT, has been involved in corruption scandals since former President Lula's first term. The government bought support from hundreds of congressmen and satellite parties to vote according to the administration's desires. It happened through monthly payments that mounted to millions and millions of dollars. A similar scheme was orchestrated in huge state companies like Petrobras, Brazil's oil company. A cartel of contractors paid up to 3% in kickbacks for each contract won, in a bribery system that was used to fund political campaigns and for personal gain of the people involved. In Petrobras alone, the corruption toll was estimated by the federal police in more than 42 billion reais, approximately $12 billion.
It does have more debt than any other oil company out there.
The company lost 85% of its original value. Critics of the impeachment state that it lacks legitimacy because many of the politicians conducting the process are corrupt. And they are indeed. But most Brazilian people do not think that it is an acceptable excuse not to pursue justice for the wrongdoings of the present. And they are right. Fact number 7. PT, the government's party, is really corrupt. Well, actually, to some extent, all parties are. But PT is as corrupt as it gets. Both treasurers of the party were arrested for taking part in bribery schemes and in laundering money for election campaigns. An unbelievable number of ministers, Congress leaders, and politicians from PT have been arrested on similar accounts. Even PT's spin doctor and marketing consultant wound up in jail with his wife. This senator, who was PT's leader in Congress, was arrested as well. He was trying to set up an escape plan from jail for a former director of Petrobras. This senator confirmed in his deposition to the police that both former President Lula and current President Dilma knew all about Petrobras' bribery scheme. Fact number 8. President Dilma's election was a fraud. Brazilian specialized Corps of Election Law is already looking into Dilma's campaigns from 2010 and 2014. They were the most expensive campaigns ever, and it has been proved that they were funded by laundered money. In addition to the illegal funding, the 2014 campaign used state companies like the Brazilian Mail Services to promote character assassination against the opposition candidates. Dilma's campaign even used social programs database to send warnings to their beneficiaries, alluring to the risk of changing the administration. Finally, the campaign itself was based on lies.
Estamos vendo como erraram os que diziam meses atrás que não iríamos conseguir baixar os juros nem o custo da energia e que tentavam amedrontar nosso povo, entre outras coisas, com a queda do emprego e a perda do poder de compra do salário.
As soon as she won the election, and against what she had been promising, President Dilma raised fees in the electric billing, made severe cuts on social programs, elevated the interest rate, and also tried to raise taxes. Fact number 9. President Dilma is personally involved.
But what has she done? Presided over the worst recession in nearly a century, allegedly used creative accounting to conceal the hole in her budget, tried to hire her predecessor, perhaps to shield him from criminal investigation. But are these impeachable offenses? She herself has not been tainted by or even accused of corruption, and she refuses to resign.
Let us check Dilma's track record. She belongs to the high ranks of PT. In Lula's administration, she was appointed Minister of Mines and Energy, the very cabinet in charge of Petrobras. In fact, she presided the board of Petrobras before running for president of Brazil. She led 2 presidential campaigns that were funded by laundered money. She tried to obstruct justice and shield former President Lula from investigation by appointing him to a ministry. How diminishing for a former president, right? Why would he accept it? She herself signed the phony loans that constitute the billionaire fiscal fraud she's accused of in the impeachment process, and she was being warned about the illegality of that accountancy malpractice. Let's be reasonable. How come she's not involved? Fact number 10. There's no turmoil in Brazil. Despite the economic crisis and the disbelief in the current administration and in politicians in general, Brazil is still the same joyful country, with full functioning and strong democratic institutions. There is absolutely no coup going on, and you are more than invited to see it for yourself during the Olympic Games in Rio. So the next time you hear about any coup around here, make sure you're not getting your story from the bad guys themselves or their following. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in Brazil someday.